Well, here's the story. Some of us lost weight in ISO. Some, like me, put it all back on, and now I'm going back in the other direction again. Some learned how to cook, but Rebecca wrote a book. The mum of six wrote a travel book for large Aussie families during Melbourne lockdown, when her family travel agency, Mr. Chocolate's Travel, like all travel agencies, ground to a screeching halt. The book is called Holiday Dreaming, the expert's guide to large family travel. Rebecca, good evening.
Good evening, Dennis. Thank you for having me.
Now, we're not talking about large people. We're talking about a large family of people of normal size.
Yes, we have a large family of people. So not your cookie-cutter family, not your 2 adults and 2 children, but more so your 2 adults and 3 children, or 4 children, or 5 or 6. I have 6 children.
Whoa. Rebecca,
Yes.
that in itself is an interview. That doesn't happen much these days.
No, it doesn't, but I can assure you there are plenty of families out there, because I've been on the hunt for the last 10 years looking for them.
And they're out there. I'm happy to hear it. Now, the book, as I mentioned, you're involved with travel, but I don't recall ever seeing a book that actually gives advice for families of a larger size when they're going holidaying. And at the moment, everyone is talking about travelling around Victoria, travelling around Australia, and some good advice would be very welcome for the bigger family.
Exactly, and that's exactly why I wrote it, to click into this niche market, and I thought I was very experienced. And all the ideas I put on paper
Now,
that I've picked up over this. Yep.
Yep. What would be a number one tip for travelling with family, particularly if the numbers are fairly large, like maybe 4, 5, or 5 or 6?
My tip would be to plan early, book early, and perhaps think about going to a cabin in a caravan park.
Yes.
And I would look at interconnecting rooms and rollaways. But my top tip would be to plan early. That would be my number one.
And you would also have to be very budget conscious if you're travelling with that number of people, because as we all understand, when you're away on holidays, it can be extremely expensive.
Of course. We've spent $400 on a dinner, so that had to stop. And we actually went to Hawaii for 5 weeks. We couldn't spend $400 on dinner for our family, so we lived on dips and wraps. And we were all happy.
Yeah, you're all happy. So you were still on the big adventure, weren't you? You're still on the holiday.
Yeah, we were still on the holiday. We were having dips and wraps. The most important thing to us was exploring our surroundings.
Now, we had a weekend with our grandchildren at a Big Four caravan park a couple of years ago, and I can tell you, Rebecca, it had absolutely everything. It was like a one-stop spot. It had the indoor pool. It had incredible facilities like tennis court. It had lots of dozens of activities for the kids. So some of those places are a bit of a one-stop shop for the family to have a getaway.
That's exactly right, and we love the Big Four parks. We actually had a lot of holidays on them when our kids were younger, and we still go for them today. And they actually have a lot of 3-bedroom cabins.
Yep. Yes.
In those parks as well. And yeah, one-stop shop. It's all included.
When you're travelling, when you're in the car, when you're in the SUV with the kids, has someone invented something better than I Spy?
I actually talk about I Spy in the book, and I'm a bit over things starting with T. So, I'm sorry, we have actually reverted to movies. The car's now pretty cool, so they can actually choose their own movie on their iPad, or they can have a movie on the back of the seat. So, yeah, the games are probably more electronic, and that's for the parents' sanity. But we have regular stops every 2 hours or so.
Yeah, but the technology, I mean, for once, you would be probably not discouraging the kids to get off their screens. I mean, they mightn't be watching the countryside go by, but they would be entertained with something that they actually want to watch themselves.
Yes, and they would be quiet. And none of this "are we there yet?" And that is where the maps have been really good. You know how we get maps in cars now?
Yes.
Yes, that's really good because they can look at the map and work out how many hours or minutes or seconds it is to get to the destination. So are we there yet?
So with a family, when they're planning, you did say about planning and book ahead and all that sort of stuff, are there particular spots online to go to get the best deals?
Yes. So I'm going to say talk to a travel agent because they have more intel and they have really good relationships with the accommodation providers. Expedia is probably somewhere good to go. That's actually a really interesting question because there is more and more out there on the web. But my biggest tip would actually be to join social media groups who are actually into budget holidays or family holidays.
That's a good idea.
Because I think, the information that comes from people who are experiencing the same dreams is going to be the best. That's my answer, actually. Social media.
Okay, social media. The other thing with your travel agency, is it back up and running, given things are starting to move forward?
Well, I was the top seller of Disney products in Australia and New Zealand. So Disneyland was Mr. Chocolate's travel. So we're not selling a lot right now, but we have started to have some inquiries trickle in for places such as Broome and tropical North Queensland. And also very popular was Coffs Harbour.
Oh, beautiful spot. They believe in Coffs Harbour that they have the best climate in Australia, and I sort of agree with them.
Yeah. So people are actually, instead of going to Disneyland, they're going to the theme parks in Queensland. Instead of going to SeaWorld in Orlando, they're going to see the dolphins in Coffs Harbour. So we're trying to do similar things. Uluru is very popular, but the accommodation is very difficult to get into there.
Look, it's been terrible for travel agents and for so many forms of industry and business. But the only probably positive out of all this, Rebecca, is that people will be seeing more of the country that they live in, and that is a good thing. And hopefully everything else will start to get back to normal in like halfway through next year, and then into 2022.
Well, I'm excited for international travel, maybe 2022, but I'm even more excited to get people, as you say, exploring Australia, because my favourite holiday destination is actually Apollo Bay.
I love Apollo
Bay. Ocean Road. I know. And every time we go, there's different areas to explore. So I think we've got to change our thinking and not think Disneyland is Disneyland is amazing, but you don't have to have a good family holiday to go there. You can go 60 kilometres from home and there's a holiday waiting for you.
Well, I also enjoy Port Campbell, which I find a delightful spot to be as well. The book is called Holiday Dreaming, The Expert's Guide to Large Family Travel. It's by Rebecca Mason. Is there a book 2 on the way?
I think so. I'm not sure what it's called, and I'm not sure which niche I will go into. It could be multi-generational travel. I'm actually a fan of travelling with grandparents, parents, children, grandchildren. So it could be something along those lines.
Well, if you've got the right mix of personalities, it's an absolute joy. Rebecca Mason, congratulations. I look forward to talking to you about book number 2, 3, 4 and 5 at some point in the future.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks for having me.
Rebecca Mason, the book is called Holiday Dreaming, The Expert's Guide to Large Family Travel. 3AW Nights.